friends, happy holidays. I hope you're all well. Today's book is another holiday book, which I'm so excited to talk to you about. The book is called Christmas of White by K.D. Elizabeth. K.D. is a new author to me, and she approached me earlier in the fall, and I was excited to read another Christmas book because then, of course, I could bring it to you guys. Reading the holiday books that I have this year has been really important to my emotional state. I realized that I'm not really in the Christmas spirit this year. No, Macy's getting comfortable at my feet here, so you probably hear her wrestling around. I'm the type of person that always tries to look at the good in a situation, so I have so much to be grateful for this year, but I'm just not feeling holly jolly all the time. However, reading the Christmas books that I have and being able to sit down and do these videos for you about the Christmas books has been really great for me, and I hope for you as well. Christmas of White is about Buck, Julia, and Buck's son Cole. I was really kind of surprised by this book. I love her writing. I don't want to, when I say I'm surprised by a book, it's not like I'm like, oh, I thought it would be crappy. Not like that. I love when I find a new author and I like their writing and I like their storytelling. So that always surprises me in the best way, because being able to find new authors that I like is really a wonderful thing for me. Buck is a single dad. You know, I love a single dad story. I just kind of melt about them. And Buck was no different. Julia is actually Cole's teacher. Buck and Cole the story takes place in the Upper East Coast. Is it Vermont or New Hampshire? I can't remember which one. I think it's Vermont. In any case, up that way. And during, obviously, Christmas time, holiday time, I really liked the different themes that we got, if that's the right word, in this book. There's some deeper feelings and situations in this book, but also the story has some really serious, for Julia, life-altering moments that happened to her around Christmas. So that brings another layer. The other things that KD tackles in this book is bullying, not only between children, but adults, which is very interesting. I think that sometimes we don't recognize when we are being bullied as adults. We might say somebody's being a jerk or kind of a snot or whatever. There's bullying behavior that carries over into adulthood for sure. And there was some of that in this book. It's also a small town, so there's that element to it. Single dad, and what that brings to the table for Buck and then for Cole. There's, like I mentioned, a life-altering thing that happens to Julia around Christmas, and the grief of that situation KD tackles in this book. There was a lot of meat to this story, and I really enjoyed all of that. Julia, I liked from the get-go. She's a teacher through and through. I think Cole is 9 or 10, so 4th or 5th grade, I think. It takes a special person to teach elementary school. Buck had, let me tell you, the coolest job ever that I have read in a book, and I actually mentioned it to Katie. He works for, and I meant to look up before I started the video, darn it. He works for the National Oceanic Atmospheric Association. Is that right? NOAA? I think that's right. How freaking cool is that? I love that it was an out-of-the-box job like that. He predicts weather, storms in particular, and Cole and Buck talk about living in Florida and how Buck predicted hurricanes. Now they're living in the north, and he predicting snowstorms. So cool. Buck is intense. He is broody. He is, I mean, he comes off like kind of aggressive, but when I say that, I want to immediately take it back, because he's not aggressive, but he's just like, Julia refers to him as like a big black bear, which I kind of pictured this like dark mountain man. He's got a beard and dark hair and dark beard and in a flannel. And then Julia also says that there's not a single civilized inch of him. So when you get all of that, the picture that I conjured up in my mind about him was this like larger, like 7-foot big mountain man. A very sexy one at that is for sure. But I loved how from the get-go with them, as soon as she meets him, she's kind of like, oh my God, like he's a lot. They meet because Cole keeps coming to school without a coat on. And she's like, what is going on? He's standing outside freezing, waiting to go home on the bus. And it's happened week after week. And she's like, what is wrong with this family? Why does this kid not have a coat? So she decides to drive him home and take it upon herself to confront the parents of Cole. And so she goes to drop Cole off, kind of crossing a little bit of a line there, and that's when she meets Buck. And the way Katie wrote that, I felt it. I felt all of it. This is what Julia says as she's driving up to the house. Before us, virtually invisible through the swirling snow, is a house, a mansion, an estate. Whatever it is, it's large, huge, ridiculously so. Most definitely large enough to afford a damn winter coat. My knuckles turn white around the steering wheel as I try to rein in my fury. I pride myself on being a rather pleasant person. Understanding. It's a prerequisite for a teacher. But as I stare up at that huge, expensive house and think of this freezing child, I become irate. How dare they, whoever they are, how dare they poorly clothe their child when it's more than clear they have the means to do so. So she pulls up to the house with Cole in the back seat. She's pissed. Cole goes running up to the door, opens the door, walks in, is like, Dad, my teacher's here. It's great. And again, this is from Julia's perspective. Then I sense him. I'll remember the sensation for the rest of my life. The innate, incomprehensible knowing that he's there. I haven't even turned around, have never met this man before in my life, and yet he's there, right behind me. His physical presence, a physical caress down every inch of my body. Another shiver crawls along my spine, this time one of animalistic awareness. Ever so slowly I turn around, then shrink back into the door. A gigantic beast of a man stands mere inches from me. Even in my heels he towers over me. His eyes drill into mine so intensely I wish I could melt back into the door. My mouth drops open but no words emerge, only a strangled gasp. But I'm the only one. Who the hell are you and what are you doing with my son? I felt every word of that as I was reading it. And it's funny, I realized as I was preparing for the video that that's one of the last passages that I highlighted from Julia's perspective, because I got her. And true to my usual reading, I want the male characters to work for it a little bit more. And boy, did Buck work for it. I loved him. I wasn't sure about him. As we've talked about here, he is dark and intense and a lot. Not just alpha jerk. Different than that, but yes, that. And so I realized that so many of my highlighted passages were from Buck's perspective after that. Unfortunately for Julia, after she leaves their house that night, the meeting does not go well. And she leaves the house and they're kind of in the middle of nowhere. And this major storm has blown in. And she gets into a bit of a car wreck, is taken to the hospital, is injured but okay. And she's like, I don't want to stay at home. You know, she goes home to recover, but she's sad when she's at home. She's alone at home. She has nobody. Her parents have passed. She doesn't really have many friends. She doesn't have a significant other. That's another part of, her losing her parents and not having many other people. She's very alone in the world. So after she gets released from the hospital, she goes home and she's by herself, and she's like, well, screw this, go back to school and keep teaching before the winter break, even though she has a concussion, even though she has bruised ribs, even though she is injured. And Buck shows up at the school to be like, how dare you let this teacher come to my house? Boundaries are being crossed. And then he takes one look at her, and this is a couple days later after the accident, which they didn't know anything about. And he takes a look at her and he's like, oh my God, what happened to you? But he is not very nice to her before. So she's like, none of your beeswax, buzz off. And the tension between the two, oh my God, it was amazing. It was all good. I love all that angst. But in any case, here's where Buck started to really get my attention, because he says, okay, listen, you can't be by yourself. I feel responsible, remember, because of his job and what he does. I feel responsible for letting you leave my house and that happen. Let me help you. You shouldn't be alone. You have a concussion. Come to my house. You've already been there. Let us help take care of you. Let's nurse you a little bit and keep an eye on you over the next couple of days. And that's where the story takes off. There are some really great moments between Julia and Cole, and they connect not just as teacher and student, but he's this like sweet, energetic young kid that you can't help but adore when you read this book. Knowing that Cole and Julia discover this commonality that they have sheds a little bit of a different light on how Buck looks at Julia and how Buck feels about raising his son on his own. And then it kind of ties Buck and Julia together, because Buck understands Julia on a different level. When you read the book, you'll know what I'm talking about. And I know that I'm probably dancing around it like I do a little bit. This is a passage from Buck's perspective that I really loved. She'll never just be a woman now. I won't be able to separate the adult woman from the innocent child. It binds her to me tighter than any person has ever been before. Damn it all. Although maybe this is really why I'm attracted to her. At least now it makes sense. Something instinctive in both of us recognized a kindred spirit. The same situation ruined both of our lives. We must have recognized it about each other. And now it's transformed. Oh yeah, this is a word that I could not pronounce and I hadn't heard before. Transmogrified? Does that sound right? Into some weird desire to protect her like my own child. It's almost a relief, really. This isn't me losing control. There's even a certain agreeable symmetry to it. I would be attracted to a woman who has experienced the trauma that my son has. That's almost rational. And my attraction to Julia will be easier to ignore because of it. But some secretive, long-ignored part of me whispers that perhaps it wouldn't be that bad if I acted on the attraction. What would happen, really? So we lose ourselves in each other's bodies for a night or two, maybe even 3 if she can't go home Sunday night because of the storm. What harm would that really do? I loved their inner dialogue that we got. There were funny parts. There were sweet parts. There were times when Julia just like couldn't help it and was like, oh my God, like he's really hot, you know? And I really loved all that. This is a passage from Julia, and this is where I was right with her and when I totally fell for Buck after this. Buck rakes a hand through his hair in frustration, then spreads his hands wide as if trying to make me understand, which heartbreakingly I do. I need help learning to trust a woman again, okay? Hell, I need help learning to trust people, period. I can't continue to set this example for my son. I don't want him to become bitter like I am. And you, well, you seem to care enough about him that maybe you could help me too. I stare at him, drink forgotten. Any expression whatsoever has completely drained out of Buck's face. He fidgets, then falls absolutely still, body stiffening almost as if my eyes widen. Could Buck be uncomfortable? Nervous? Oh God, the man is being vulnerable. Buck has surely never asked for help in his entire life. And judging by the rigid set of his jaw and tense body, he hates it, loathes the fact that he can't be everything that his son needs just by himself. Something stupid in me positively melts like the stupid marshmallows in this stupid drink. See, it's funny. There's great moments like this all the way through the book. Thank goodness we do get a happily ever after with this book. After some drama, we love some good drama, don't we? And we got it with Julia and Buck, but there is a happily ever after. Let me know if you have read Christmas of White or any of Katie's other books. I would love some recommendations. Thank you for taking a moment to consider subscribing by hitting the red subscribe box below and also giving the video a thumbs up. When you do that, it not only helps this video get shown to more people here on YouTube, but it will help my channel get shown as well. As always, I welcome you to come over to my social media and say hello to me over there. It's Kat Reads Romance on Facebook and Instagram. Thanks for hanging out with me today, guys. I'll see you soon. Bye.